that we mentioned it 3 times already, it's actually not that funny anymore. But yeah, I guess we can say it like one more time.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Callum is actually our guest today, Callum Smith from the UK. I'm here with my co-hosts Kai Savatari from Berlin and Marcus Ewaldh from... Actually, Marcus, I know you're not from Gothenburg, right? Where are you actually from?
Well, no, I'm from... Yeah, well, Sweden, I was supposed to say, but...
Oh yeah, let's just make it easy, right? Our listeners, they're just like... They kind of like, Europe, mate.
Yes.
I thought we were going to go really deep into where you're actually from. Like, is it Wilken where you used to run the tournament?
Yeah, well, I live in Viken most of the time. Now I'm in Gothenburg for work, but yeah, Viken, it's a small place. Most Swedes don't even know where it is, so...
And it's
put it on the map for the Legacy.
You had the Wilken Invitational at some point?
Yeah, I think I'll run it back. I was supposed to do it this year, but yeah, been busy.
I like how you say you were supposed to do it. Like, who supposed you to do it?
My plan was to do so, but yeah.
Okay. And with that, hello and welcome to Everyday Channel number, I believe, 147, your favorite, most deceptively named bi-weekly Legacy podcast. If you want to support the running of the show directly, you can support us on patreon.com/everydaychannel. I'm so excited to learn more about this Callum guy, guys, but... First of all...
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on. Long-time listener. Don't really like the host very much, but, you know, I can get over that. I think the topics are really fun to listen to, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Like, money solves all problems, right? Everybody has a price.
Yeah, mine was £2. £2.
Yeah. By the way, the pound is like the coolest thing ever. Like, we have euros and then we have mark, but every time a Brit says pound, it sounds so much more valuable. I don't know.
That's weird.
I don't know, just like marketing wise, like, oh yeah.
I'll take it. Yeah.
You'll take it, awesome.
We have Swedish crowns. That's also pretty valuable.
Yeah, but that's honestly, that's, I don't know, too on the nose. That's just like, oh, we have crown, we trade in crowns, right?
I think crown sounds way cooler than pound.
Oops. Do you really have crowns?
Yeah.
You have like krona or something, right?
Yeah, but that's Swedish for crown, so...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Everyone in Sweden is so rich.
Yeah, this is your favorite monetary podcast. Like, what's your favorite currency? Everybody let us know on twitter.com/eternalmtg.
My favorite currency is accumulated knowledges. I'll give you 2, you give me 3, you give me 4, etc.
This is how people get into drugs.
Right. Didn't we just get a currency converter in Legacy? Like, that was like a year ago, and that's even a control card. So
and you can
actually a card that people play. Yeah,
discard accumulated knowledge with it, and then cast another one.
God damn it! Come on, dude.
Yeah, actually, Marcus, why are you not playing currency converter? But yeah, we have Callum on the cast, so we could actually attract Marcus, who recently. Like, it's kind of funny, right? Marcus wanted to talk about Control, and then everybody in our Discord and on Twitter was like, oh my god, if Marcus speaks up, we definitely should speak about Control. And then you went ahead and you top-8'd 2 Legacy Challenges, so we were like, okay, now we actually have a reason to have you on, other than you being a legend host of Everyday Channel. But first of all, Marcus, help us out again. I think a lot of people on the European scene know you. For those who don't know you, you're known online as iwouldliketorespond, also known as Truckers, but you lost the password, right? To basically all of those accounts everywhere, which to me is...
No, that wasn't Twitch, but that's a separate story. And Truckers, it was full of comments from my drafting addiction. So instead of shredding it all, I made a new account.
Dude, my life changed when I shredded all my cards. Like, thank God for all those shredder bots.
But back in the day, I don't think we had those, so I had to like find a bot that accepted them, and I had to trade 64 cards at a time or something. And at that point, I believe I had over 200,000 cards from drafting.
Like when Marcus logged on, the server slowed down by like 5% or something. Yeah. Like this was like, oh no, Marcus is back on again. Oh shit.
It was tough though. There didn't used to be as many shredder bots, right? So I remember I've got another account I paid like the $5 for, and I just put all the trash on there, and then I've forgotten even what the name of the account is, let alone the password. So
yeah, you know how I used to have all that crap, and then you told me on one episode about this grave card that was like worth 60 tickets, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then when I went to shred my cards, I was like, why is this card left over? And oh, it's that card.
Paul does some weird things.
Yeah, and speaking of weird things, Marcus, help us out again.
What a transition! Holy
Yeah, I'm the master of transitions, man. They call me MT, master of transitions, MC, MT. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't mean anything like medical technician or something. Marcus, help us out. You are here because you are really well known. Actually, we didn't even give you a proper introduction at all, right? So I guess we can make it short. Like you are a legacy player. You've done insanely well in tons of legacy tournaments before COVID, and then you basically transitioned to playing mostly online and sometimes showing up at paper tournaments still. So yeah, you know what you're doing. I think you have like a Bazaar of Mox in top 8 or something, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I've been mostly online, and I started playing Legacy way back when, and I really started the Modo grind, as they say, around, what was it, 2013 or something? When Star City was big and we had this Sunday
That's
events.
10 years by now.
Exactly. And I started playing Miracles, and I really found my jam. And I've been trying to copy that experience ever since. To not much success, but recently I sort of found a card that matches my play pattern and what I want to do.
And that card, ladies and gentlemen, is Baneslayer Angel, a card you famously used to defeat me at some Bazaar of Mox. I don't remember, 2014 or so. Yeah. So, Marcus, how did you arrive at Baneslayer?
Well, do we really want to go down that hole?
I mean, that's what the whole episode is about. At least that's what I was told.
Well, we have a new Baneslayer Angel. Here's me transitioning back. Yeah, we have a new Baneslayer, but it costs 2 mana these days, and it's not on Magic Online. But
fire design as you love it. Yeah. Wizards, come on. It only costs 2 mana. Okay, help us out. Like, how do you make that? Does it still have protections from demons and dragons?
So it's worse flavor-wise, but it's better if you have 2 mana and worse if you have 5, I suppose. So,
dude, people really know us for our deep analysis here. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
No. Seriously, let's make this somewhat proper of a cast. So. You know that everybody on this cast loves control decks, loves Jeskai decks, and recently Jeskai Staff Blade really made an impact, and you've been pioneer. Well, is it really pioneering a version when basically all of those cards have been well established and you put them together in a meaningful way? I say yes, because there's still some Marcus left in this decklist, very much so, even when I look at Staff and like Teferi interactions. So can you give us a quick rundown of maybe, first of all, what control means to you in Legacy and why you think control wasn't all that much playable, like if you wanted to go for top competitive results, and what has changed now to make it playable?
Well, so the short version is Boomer starts playing with the good cards, and well, the longer version is that, as I said, I want to play this reactive, grindy, long game, and so control for me is cheap answers and some sort of late game, right? So you use the answers to get to the late game, and then the late game kicks in, whatever it is. But the opposing decks, they have more card draw, and they have broken mechanics like the initiative, and so widespread of threats. So it's hard to like have a good late game unless you start jamming threats, right? So for the last couple of years, this mid or late game has consisted of random 3-drops that has been, some of them have been banned and some are still available. And to me, that is not like you're never fighting for a position. You don't really play around things. You look at your hand and, well, this is me exaggerating a bit, but it's sort of an auto battler. If you have the mana, you play the card, and if they have the threats, you play your free interactive spell, right? So what changed now is that I can play this reactive game, leave my mana up, and then in my opponent's end step, I can get some granular advantage, as you refer to. So
basically, to sum it up, you love Factor Fiction.
I do. I love Factor Fiction, but it's not only, well, if it was Fire Design, sure, I could play it for 1 mana, but as it is, 4 mana is not, you're not impacting the board, it's easy to answer, and you're only getting like 2 or 3 cards. It's not that big of a deal anymore.
You only get 2 or 3 cards, like, no, whatever, dude.
So, well,
I mean, to be fair, part of Vector Fiction was also that it feeds like Psychotalk, which isn't really all that relevant here.
Well, you can get.
I mean,
you can
almost,
get your
yeah.
accumulated knowledges in your graveyard though. So I always try to get that interaction going, but Search for Escanta. Well, we tried that, Callum. You remember? Never really worked out.
Oh yeah. With Wilderness Reclamation, it was fun.
Yeah, that's true. Haven't seen that card in a while. Should we spend some tickets?
Yeah. So Marcus and I go like quite a long way back, making really silly decks, which we both loved, but they were never very good. And I think I would say my favorite, and maybe your favorite, is the epic pit. So Tep.
Yeah.
And
what a legendary deck, dude.
it's like bug colors, and I think I had veteran explorers, but like barely any cabal therapies as well. So they would just die. They were just moats basically. And then you won with a Wilderness Reclamation. Then we played like 3 Search for Escanta. So Reclamation untaps them, and you just like bury the opponent in cards.
And we had Nexus Fate, and we won with Veteran Explorer beatdown, right?
That was it. Exactly. I think there was 2 or 3 Veteran Explorers and 1 or 2 Snapcasters. But the real win condition was Cunning Wish for Empty the Pits.
Yeah. Oh god, that's like that zombie card, right?
Yeah, it's 4 black and then double X, and delve, you make X tap zombies. So the idea is eventually your opponent just is like, if they really, really don't want to concede and give up, then you're like, okay, fine, I'll kill you. But usually you just win with Veteran Explorers attacking. And that was some peak. That's the little look into the mind of how Marcus wants to win games. So if you ever see his deck lists and like, how do you win? Where's the win condition? That's the man you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Actually, you know what? Now that I'm actually looking at the decklist that you submitted, yeah, I guess we'll get to that. But holy shit, you're right. Oh, okay, I see some conditions at least.
Yeah, the mana base helps a bit, but otherwise, I mean, Marcus, like, even with Miracles, like you often didn't even play Entreat. You were just like 2 Snapcasters and 2 Jaces as the win ones, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by establishing some sort of late game. You just have more answers than your opponent has ability to do anything, and then you just win by like that Snapcaster card. It's sort of a 2-for-1, but the body is like, haha, why do you need that? But then 10 turns later, you know why I needed that. That's like the whole idea.
Yeah.
So you don't want to spend an actual card on a Comet Stellar Pup, for example, which is like a good random card, but why do you need it? Because when you win big anyways, and if you don't, well, then you're sort of in this race situation and you're not really in control anymore. So
for somebody who's only really cast, let's say we have somebody listening who's only ever cast Reality Smasher and the like, why does this make you happy? Like, what is the special feeling about playing like a super late game focused control deck?
I don't really know. It's I'm sure I'm missing some connections in my brain, but I just enjoy to show up to tournament and play my deck. I don't want to play like my hand and 3 or 4 cards. I want to play my deck. That's the purpose of the game. Like Miracles, it will drag on.
And Burn doesn't allow you that?
Miracles will drag on forever. I enjoy Stasis. I play High Tide, and my only modern deck I ever played was Taking Turns. So it's sort of a...
It's kind of funny how you told us you couldn't broadcast or you couldn't record from home, so that's why you went to a special place. I have a feeling that you actually went to... You're calling in from prison right now. Like, what the fuck, man?
Sitting here at Shutter Island, tapping my blue mana.
Yeah, we're basically reading out like all your crimes against humanity. Like, keep going.
Yeah.
Den Haag is coming.
I knew the Terminus hit you too hard. Was it like 7 years ago or something?
I was dropped on Terminus as a baby or something. Yeah. Probably.
Well, so if you want me to go back to that, what is Control and why do I play it? So you asked why I'm not casting Reality Smasher and
yeah. I mean that's one part. Like, what's the allure of Control for people who enjoy it? What makes you basically you've been addicted to all of that?
It's sort of a puzzle that's up to me to solve, and not. If you
are you a single child?
Sorry.
You have
yes, one sister. Very abusive sister. No, I was kidding. Just helping you try to figure me out.
I'm glad you are laughing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so if you play a threat, you want the game to end, or like before your opponent get the chance to fight back. But I want to fight everything they can have at every point. That's like me feeling in control of the game. So I don't know. And
Now we're getting closer.
Yes, I hear the police sirens from outside now. So to me, it's the puzzle when you play, but it's more about the puzzle when you build a deck, right? So you have to figure out which kind of answers you need, how much mana you have to spare for all your dirty shenanigans. Like, how many predict can this meta afford me to play? How much mana do I have to not get anywhere, get any traction? And most of my decks starts with like 8 tutors and 12 cantrips, and then I reality check myself and go back down to something reasonable, and then try a card like Accumulate the Knowledge, lose a few leagues, and then bite the dust and add those fired card instead, like Narset and stuff.
I mean, we're kind of making fun of some of your bluish addictions, but I think you are probably... You were holding one of the highest legacy MTGO Edo ratings of all times at, like, I don't know, 2,100?
Yeah.
Am I overselling
I don't
it?
remember if it was above or just below 2,100. But back in the days when I played Miracles, and this was before leagues, so I played these daily events, and was it monthlies or weeklies? I don't remember. I think it was monthlies, right?
Well, it was mostly like daily events that we had until like for quite a long time, and then they made it monthly for like these challenges, made them monthly for like only 1 or 2 months, and then they realized, oh, they're that popular, and then they made them twice weekly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't know. The cards I enjoy, and when they are good, they are usually banned. So I don't know if it's any indication of how good I am with the cards, or how good the cards are and how much they carry me. So.
I mean, if anything, you're good at evaluating cards. If everything you like always ends up banned.
Well, no. Well, if they are proven to be good and I like them, then they're banned. But most of the cards I play are not very good.
Okay, but anyway, so you've basically been... I mean, it's kind of impressive that you've stuck to this throughout all your legacy life, right? You through the good times and the bad times, and I think over the last couple of years, they weren't always the greatest times. So what has actually changed? Like, what has given you the feeling of, hey, we might actually have something here again that's more than just a... Well, I was going to call it like a tier 2 hobby, but a potential tier 1 deck.
Yeah, well, I discovered Staff. I mean, I've been trying most of the things. No,
you discovered Staff.
I found it.
We found
it in my binder. I discovered it.
Actually, before going into the full deck list, do you want to give us your breakdown of Staff, how you think it works, like how good you think it is? Because it's been like, contentious. I think it's become a bit of a staple in Legacy already, but there's still people saying they think it's incredible or a bit overrated and stuff. And do you think it requires much deck building around it? Give us your breakdown.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a very fun build around card in the sense that it's face up. You get a 1/1 for 3 mana, which is terrible, and then you have to play some token generators maybe, or what I do instead is to just let the game go on forever, so I will hit my Staff 2, 3, and 4 eventually. That's the idea. So you have to compensate for the slow card that it is by playing cheap answers and a bit like higher volumes of these cheap answers to like let the Staff do its thing. So if you look at my list here, I have Force of Negation, which is not super common in a control deck because it's a 1 for 2, and the whole purpose is to grind cards. And,
Actually, you know what? I know I said before going to the deck list, you're probably right. Maybe do you want to give us a rundown of the deck list that you've been playing recently, and then it'll help you explain the card.
Okay, well, I can start with the core. I have 22 lands, which is the 18 I usually play, plus 4 Urza Saga, and those are very key in the deck, as it turns out, but I can come back to later. And then I have the 8 plows, 4 prismatic ending, 4 swords, 4 ponder, 4 brainstorm, 2 mental misstep, 2 spell pierce, and
minor misstep. I hope.
Sorry.
Decklist error.
That was a minor
Marcus,
misstep.
Ewaldh, please come to the judge station.
Minor misstep from me.
Nice.
Oh, you were setting up the joke. I see.
No, I wasn't. And as Urza Saga targets, I have Retrofitter Foundry and Soul Guide Lantern. Moving on to the 2 slots, we have 4 staffs, 2 Snapcaster, and in the 3 slot, 2 Narset, 2 Teferi. But Narset are sort of flex, so you have seen other lists with other cards there. The 2 forces I mentioned, Force of Negation, 4 Force of Will, and that's the main deck. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so as you said, so now we can go back to, you said you play in the minor missteps and spell pierces and force negations, like 6 cards to kind of recoup this tempo loss for playing staff, essentially.
And then you have the dynamic from other decks as well. We have these four Planeswalkers. So you have the Dirtly value card if you cast them, and then you can just pitch them to force a negation, or have these cards to make up for the card disadvantage. So it sort of plays well together.
Because this approach is like not the only approach I've seen or the only thing that works. Like obviously this works, you've been doing very well, but like Anurag's 4-color deck is playing loads of clunky cards, Fables and Uros as well, but he's kind of trying to mitigate that by leaning on carpet a lot of the time, I think, or just raw power of all the individual cards. And it's a mid-range deck rather than control, where you're presenting the threats rather than here you're trying to have all the answers and then catch up on tempo. It's despite the card like going into control decks, like it's a very different approach both times,
exactly. Right? And carpet is a key, like you mentioned, and looking at Legacy as a whole, it doesn't make any sense to play control, right? Because you need fast mana to play the good cards, right? And I don't really like play the good cards that ends the game. No Murktide, no Minskin Boon, nothing, and no Dark Ritual, no Ancient Tomb, no Accelerant of any sort. So the core principle is to have, for every threat your opponent casts, you have a cheap answer, and then you like spend the difference to draw a card to like somewhat keep afloat for the rest of the game. So yeah, it's like you say, you don't take the initiative, pun intended, and play that Minskin Boo turn 3-4. It's rather having that blast and setting up for that situation and then pull ahead.
Control also kind of relies on other decks being a bit more sum of their parts, relying on synergy, and then having some weaker cards if you disrupt the other half of what provides synergy.
Yeah, that, and also if you drag the game on, they will sort of end up with the Simian Spirit Guides from the top, where I find a ponder into whatever I need. Is the idea as well. So
absolutely,
yeah.
So basically, to summarize at this point, you already mentioned that Staff of Storyteller is like a bad investment tempo-wise, and it really only pays off once you had like the second or third, which reminds me a lot about accumulated knowledge, by the way. And in order to make up that tempo disadvantage, you really need your, well, let's call it 8 Swords to Plowshares. So Prismatic Ending is one part of the, well, I can't call it the perfect storm to enable this deck, because I mean it's not overpowered, but it's a big part, right? If Prismatic Ending hadn't been printed, I'm not sure we would be able to pull off stuff.
Yes.
What do you think?
So when I speak of cheap interaction and high volumes of said cards, it sort of makes the game fluid and not as hit or miss when you the other approach for a controller is to have a sweeper turn 4, right? But if you miss that fourth land drop, or you get wastelanded, or you don't find a sweeper because you usually play fewer of them, then you make the game about that one card. And Prismatic Ending plus Plow and Snapcaster and cantrips makes it that Delver is, you never have to Force of Will a threat, because you just count on the deck to carry you. And what's not apparent at that time is that if you do Force of Will a Delver of Secrets and you lose 7 turns later, it's not because you drew poorly, it's because you wasted a card early on something you didn't have to. So that's Prismatic Ending really unlocks this play pattern, I would say.
Yeah, Prismatic Ending, the way I picture it in my head is basically, if you have a sweeper, let's say Supreme Verdict or something, it's like this big giant truck, right? That has like guys from Mad Max on it, and they're like super angry, but it's a big giant truck that's not very maneuverable. And 4 Prismatic Endings are like 4 guys on motorbikes, right? They are not as powerful individually, but they're just like give you more flexibility, and you can chase down things easier. And yeah, it's just like how I imagine stuff.
And I also don't have nightmares over Chalice of the Void anymore, so it helps.
Okay, dude, can we just talk about how that kind is so? I was gonna say sweet, stupid. I can't. It's sweet and sour, sweet, stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
I would love to hear more about the mana base. So, like, a lot of these kind of, I'm just going to say Xerox decks, like these kind of these Tundra-based decks playing the 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder. 20 lands, 21 has become like kind of the norm. But here you have 22, which is maybe a little bit more, but you have 4 Sagas as well, which sacrifice themselves. Like, how did you get to this configuration? And 22, is that the right number as well?
I don't have enough volume of games to really say, but I think I started out with a 24 land list because I just couldn't count. I added cards, removed cards, hit submit, and I played 24 lands for a league. I flooded out a bit. Yeah,
that's interesting, because my instinct would be to play 23, 24 with 4 Sagas.
Yes, but as I said earlier, I want to not rely on... I want to hit my land drops, but I don't want to spend actual cards. I just want the mid-late game to kick in naturally when I have like 5-6 lands, you know? I don't want to cantrip to be able to play my spells. And if you look at the list here, if you see my curve, I only have 2 Narset, 2 Teferi, and then that's it. So I
was about to say, the curve is very low. It's not like kind of Miracles of Old where you do eventually need to cast Entreat the Angels or something. You are finishing at 3, that's it.
Yeah, I guess Retrofitter Foundry is the only real like mana sink you have, and everything else you just get down by. Well, you probably wouldn't get it down by turn 3, depending on how the match goes. Sometimes I guess you do, but yeah, you don't. As Callum mentioned, there's no 5-6 mana X spell payoff.
Yeah, it's basically the Delver Miracle approach, where it's sort of you want to. If you look at the Delver deck, how it's constructed, it's low curve and very resource light. You don't need to spend actual cards on lands to play your spells, which is sort of why Delver is so good. Not only because you can daze and don't get punished because you fall behind on mana, but because you can always brainstorm your lands back, right? And this is the same core principle here. If I have 2 lands, then I'm fine, and I keep the game sort of condensed to the early game for as long as I need, and then when I flood out, so to say, then the mid-late game kicks in. So I feel confident playing this deck on 2 or 3 mana for a long time.
Yeah, because even with like the minor missteps and the spell pierces, and then you use a swords or a prismatic ending here. Yeah, I can see this deck existing on 2 or 3 lands you save for a lot of the game up till turn 8, 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
Even
So if they wasteland me, then that's fine. So it's all about like what I refer to as start hand magic. You can like take a 7 of this, and you keep basically everything, and you just look at, okay, I can do this turn 1, I can do this turn 2. It's never like I have this joker over here that might be cast later.
Yeah. How have the sagas been? So we saw like kind of Sagavan was a deck, a while ago. Julian, I think, won a showcase challenge with it. Like Saga in control without many artifacts. Like you literally only have a Soul Guide Lantern, Retrofitter Foundry. So the constructs are never getting that big, but I guess Staff is an artifact as well, of course. And so I guess the synergy there, making a token to then trigger the Staff, they just kind of work well enough, and it's just one card getting more value than one card's worth as the game progresses.
And I was really surprised to see how good Saga was, because I figured that I will be the worst Saga deck because my opponent has Seat of the Synod and stuff like that, or like fill the board with random stuff. And what ended up happening is that I can contain their construct because I have my 8 plows, and then I buy time for the late game, and then Retrofitter is the best Saga late game there is, and I have my mana off of basics.
And that makes me curious though, because you say you can manage the constructs with your 8 plows, but then again they make 2 constructs out of a single land, and once the game goes long, that's kind of problematic. I guess you can Snapcaster or Teferi some of those. And then if you want to go really late, like bounce Snapcaster and Swords again or something, or jump block them for a while with your Retrofitter Foundry tokens, even though I guess that's not the idea if you want to grow your own constructs to a reasonable size. But that's something I'm wondering. Like I'm also not seeing it addressed in the sideboard, right?
No, well, you're right in the sense that I have to spend cards to deal with a land. That's sort of a bad deal from the start, but at least it's a plan. And if I can make up for spewing cards and keeping my spells cheap by drawing more cards, I sort of keep afloat, right? And then that's going back to that principle. So if my opponent spend their whole turn making a free construct, well, then I can spend my whole turn drawing an extra card and spend 1 of the mana to cast an answer to that. So the exchange is the same.
Well, the exchange is kind of the same. In the long run, it pays off for your opponent, though.
Well,
But at the same time, it's trading a card for tempo, and then if your deck is built around using that tempo to get more cards, then it kind of evens out. You're both going to have some cards that are just not like answered one for one. It's kind of like the Fable of the Mirror Breaker dilemma. Like you just can't really answer it one for one, or not in the stack generally. It's Saga is similar really a lot of the time, unless you have a Wasteland straight away.
I guess the one thing you benefit from is that at least post-board, your opponent's probably not gonna attack your constructs as much as you are attacking their constructs, so you generate some synergy out of your constructs, especially once you get to the second Saga. So I can see that because in the long run, right, as we mentioned, you have to have the bigger constructs, otherwise they will just like run you out of
and it's
cards.
a big problem, which is sort of going back to deck building a bit. Urza Saga has a lot of constraints on deck building. It's a busted card. It's sort of free to include when you play it, but you can't really play Meltdown, Dress Down, Back to Basics. All of those cards are sort of of staples in Jeskai Staff and
Mystic Sanctuary as well.
Yeah, exactly. You could do that, but yeah, there's a cost to everything.
I suppose so. That's a good segue into. I was going to say, give us a rundown of your sideboard, and I noticed there's like no kind of 8-cast, no kind of
there's basically
stuff.
Almost no unfair cards in the sideboard.
Yeah, Lavinia is really good, but okay, I can run it down. I have 2 Deafening Silence, 3 Terminus, 1 Hydroblast, 2 Surgical Extraction, 4 Red Blast with a split, 1 Lavinia, 1 Basic Mountain, and 1 Needle.
This is a very classic control sideboard of like from 5 plus years ago. But yeah, so there's no haymakers. Tell us about choosing to not go this approach.
Yes, so like I said, I built this the same way for over 10 years, and if you look at the anti-creature slots, it feels sort of weird to not include a sweeper in a control deck. But if you think about it, a sweeper getting its full the full potential of a sweeper is only really happening against like a few decks, Death and Taxes and Elves. The rest of the creature decks are sort of playing a one huge thing you have to deal with, or maybe 2. So Deliver, Stompy, and stuff like that. So in those slots, I actually play a Triumph of Saint Katherine main deck, sideboard in paper, and I think overall that's just better.
Oh, that's basically your new Baneslayer, right?
2-mana Baneslayer I talked about, and I think I like that.
We can talk about Katherine quite a lot soon.
So I have that is a haymaker slot, and when I don't play Triumphs, I go back and forth on a Wandering Emperor or something along those lines. I don't think it's really necessary. You can play Crucible as well to have the better Saga late game and have the one of cute Wasteland that I run in the first league, I think. So there are very few win cons, and I feel more confident, especially in paper, to have a haymaker in the sideboard, because time can be an issue when you go to turn.
Well, that's why you have the extra creature on the side. No. I know you have Triumph.
Lavinia for the
I think the average game ends on like turn 10 or 12 or something. So in paper, you could need some extra haymakers there.
Like that. So again, we do have enough win cons. Like we have Urza Saga making constructs. We have Staff the Storyteller making the spirits. We have 2 Snapcasters. How do the games usually end? Is it like big constructs, or is it just like lots of spirits, or a mix of both, really?
It's sort of a mix, and a handful of cards against their empty hand.
Just more than they have.
So
okay, that makes me curious though, because we've talked a lot about how you're able to answer a lot of threats with your 8 plows. But now I wonder, and I guess that's where I want to ask Kai. Like Kai, if you play Doomsday, for example, and I know I hate being reduced to a single deck, especially if I haven't played it in a while. But how do you feel about this deck? If you were to go up against Marcus, or let's not even say Marcus, someone you don't know playing this, how do you feel your odds are?
Pretty safe, honestly. Like this deck doesn't have the cards that I'm usually scared of, like Dress Down, for example. Like Dress Down is insane versus all Dust Oracle decks, unfortunately. But once I see the first Saga in this Jeskai Control deck, I can absolutely just assume that there is no Dress Down in the deck, right?
Yeah, that would be quite some interesting deck building.
I would probably lose a few games where I get blown out by Spell Pierce, because Spell Pierce is not really a card you see very often in Legacy these days, except in Sneak Show maybe. So there's that. I do love the high density on counters. You got like 10 counters. But again, as a combo player, you can probably play around like Minor Misstep and Spell Pierce, and then you got like 6 forces, and there's no clock. I would challenge this deck with Doomsday, and I could probably.
Let's do it right now.
I kind of want to see that. Like if I'm on something like Cephalid Breakfast, I'm probably a little dicey because it's gonna be like a Urza Saga war, except that I keep drawing crappy Nomads and Cores, and the control deck keeps just making more spirits and things like that. And Snapcaster also looks pretty juicy in that build. So yeah, I'm a little skeptical. Like if this deck can like just take over all games versus all combo decks, but there's certainly a few decks where things like Spell Pierce and Minor Misstep especially that kick in. So
yeah, so Dress Down would be really good, especially if you do resolve Doomsday, because I can't really beat Cavern and I have no clock like you said, but if I can protect my Dress Down I can still win. So if that angle is out of the picture, I don't really know how I win post Doomsday. But when you play this, it's not so much about specific cards.
Okay, can I quickly interrupt you there? I just found a way how you beat Thassa's Oracle. Like they put the trigger on the stack and then you terminus Thassa's Oracle. And then they play it again. Okay, never mind, go on.
Yes. That's creative thinking. Nice. I like it.
We bought a turn. Maybe that's the one.
To summarize it, like you miss a few of those key cards, but the whole purpose is to have that force of will. You find it more often and you have a few more copies of them because you draw cards. That's like the idea. So Doomsday I feel not great against, but I have one more than I have lost, and that's like in general versus most combo non-graveyard centric combo decks, I should say. I feel very confident.
I like how you have like 2 Surgicals in the sideboard. You're like, okay, graveyard.
I have my Soul Guide as well, but no, it's not enough because this.
True. Oh, main deck graveyard hate even. Here we go.
But like if you want to briefly touch on those decks like Cephalid Breakfast and Painter, those are very, very tricky because not only because I don't have those meltdown cards or those dress downs or whatever, but because they can sort of dictate what the game is all about, and that's what I want to do as a control deck.
With all peace and love, every time we get paired on Magic Online, I'm like, yes, I'm going to play some derpy control deck, and it's always pretty one-sided.
Yeah, so that's the fun of it. Like, you don't get anything for free playing a deck like this, and there's always work to be done.
The cool thing with control, I think, at the moment especially, is Staff has, Staff I think is amazing. We've talked about it a few times in the last episodes, and seems like you're a big fan as well, and it's opened up the deck to, I would say they're like mid tier 1 to higher. Like it's one of the better decks in the format at the moment, probably off the back of Staff being good, and control you really can tailor to lots of different ways. Like since Saga Van, we haven't really seen Urza Saga plus Staff control make a big splash so far until your back-to-back challenge top 8s these last 2 weekends. And I think people will start copying this as well. But we've seen lots of like Jeskai, but without the sagas, and we've seen Jeskai with like the Angelo Cadei kind of way with loads of Narsets and Teferis as well.
I was just going to bring up Angelo, by the way, but keep going.
Yeah, I just feel like even though, there's always the core of like Brainstorm, Ponder, Swords, Ending, Force of Wills and stuff, outside that, there is actually quite a lot of different ways to build it. Like even though we've said Anurag's kind of decks with Uro and Carpets and Fable and the stuff, Yorion as well, it's more of like a mid-range deck, but I think it still plays this long enough games where you could like class it as control as well, and it does feel like, there's just a lot of ways to build it now. So Marcus is always trying to be as reactive as possible. So this is what we're looking at here. And so I've always thought like you're going to be trying to play Snapcasters over the Narsets and stuff. But this list feels like a really nice mix. And in some bad matchups, I can see just like some quick constructs as well with some backed up by forces can just overtake a game, or like a Spell Pierce or a Minor Misstep sniping something unexpectedly. It's I think it does have a bit of an edge to it. Like, some people can fall behind on tempo against this, and then you have ways to punish that and stay ahead.
It's kind of interesting when you compare it to Angelo's list, which is in many ways exactly the same core, right? We talk about those 8 Swords to Plowshares, 8 Cantrips, also 2 Minor Missteps, 2 Teferis. But in his case, it's, by the way, also 6 Forces. Like you do, this is so much the same deck, even though he only plays 20 lands. And then he goes the complete opposite route, right, of what we talked about. He plays those haymakers. He has 2 Wandering Emperors. He has 2 Shark Typhoons. He has 2 Supreme Verdicts. He's playing 4 Narsets in a Day's Undoing, whereas you, and also, of course, 3 Dress Down, because his deck can afford to do that. Whereas you go the complete other route. You want to have like some smaller, more incremental advantages. And as a consequence of that, also your mana curve is lower to the ground, interestingly, at a higher land count, but I guess that's also just because of Saga.
I will add that Angelo doesn't play Staff either.
That's actually why I wanted to get to it. Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so they're really like, although they're both just Jeskai decks, they're very different. Like, if playing against these two, you're not going to know which kind of style or version you're playing against till probably turn 4 or 5 at least, and it's you do have to look out for different things, because against his list, 4 Narset, you've got to be really careful of not like letting that just get slammed, and if you hold on to your cantrips too long, you get punished for that. Supreme Verdict, if you're playing like Delve or whatever, again, Marcus is just relying on the endings and swords. Against Angelo's list, you got the Verdict to walk into. The Wandering Emperor is a very hard card to play around because it's not played enough
it's one of
to
the
like
most annoying cards ever. Whenever I play a blue deck and I'm sitting there like Flusterstorm, Pyroblast, and like end of turn Wandering Emperor, like fuck you.
Yeah, I really like the card. I think it's strong. It's but again, it's just like not played enough that it's like quote unquote correct to play around it a lot of the time. But then you attack with some creatures and you get got by it, and it can snowball the game. It's just very good at protecting itself. So
I really like Emperor as well. It's very good. And you can I just have to chime in here and say I had a Wandering Emperor, jumping in, making a token, trigger staff, draw blind, terminus your board. From nowhere, 6 mana and an Emperor.
Disgusting. Is this so I mean, these are 2, as we said, quite different styles, and do you think there's more ways of building control, or do you think Staff is the
absolutely
the source?
Once you start like looking at a 4th color, or like you sort of open up to all kind of things with if you add green, the world is your lobster, as they say, and but like keeping it Jeskai, you can also play this more which I would prefer to play this draw go game with a Fairy Mastermind and just flash it in and step, but that card I tried, I want to make work, but I just think the face value is not good enough. It's just a Plow Magnet and it doesn't leave anything behind.
Yeah, your deck is very good against Plow because the constructs are coming from a land, you're making 2 of them. Obviously the Staff is a bad trade, and then the Snapcaster as well. So you are, living that swords, like white cards are bad in the mirrors, except for Staff, I guess.
You could
whereas even Angelo's like knocking off a big shark or some. I guess it's not great here as well, but yeah.
The best Jeskai deck I think is the one without red and with Narcomoebas, but then you sort of accept.
Oh, you're talking about Cephalid
the
breakfast?
transitioning going on here. It's marvelous. Yeah. But then you have to accept these like constraints and the poor top decks, and that's sort of what I want to avoid. And to go back to what I said before, the core answers shell is the same, and then you can apply it to different things. And for a while, I never found anything that worked. And during the Expressive Iteration White Plume Adventure era, instead of having that late game, I played the smallest, most compact combo package possible. I tried different show and tell versions. I played Esper Doomsday for quite some time. And it's not until now I feel that we have a volume of cards as a win con, and that's why I enjoyed this. So Saga, sure, you leave an 8/8 behind, but if you have Staff, you draw a card, which is the real payoff.
I remember you felt pretty lost for most of like last year, right? You were trying so many different decks, you couldn't really get anything that worked for you, and now it's a complete reverse. You feel pretty happy about this.
I don't know. I just stumbled upon this and tried different things, and then someone, I think it was Francis, so credits to Francis to add Saga and try. And
which Francis?
Francis Cooper.
FGC, the FGC.
in our London chat, him and Power22 have been talking all day today about like variations of this list that Peter's going to play at an event soon, and they're talking about intuitioning for Seven's Reclamation and Crucible and all this stuff. Pete wants to add a Lion's Eye Diamond to grab with the Sagas to then flashback the intuition stuff.
Deep. Yeah, I tried the Crucible to win package. It started out as an intuition thing, but yeah, it's sweet, but it's slow, and slow is what we are.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
But intuition for Crucible, Reclamation, and like Saga, it's pretty valued.
Yeah, and that one of Wasteland that I had.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
By the way, at this point, I want to go to a listener question we received from Sean Dewey about your deck, Marcus. Sean is asking, how do you approach the Urza Saga matchup with your own blue-white-red Staff Saga list when other Saga decks have things like Ancient Tomb, Mox Diamond, Life from the Loam, etc. to go faster than your Saga and go over the top of your Saga? I mean, it's kind of like the question we already asked about like 8cast, right? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, exactly. But it's also about what is the rest of your opposing Saga deck, right? If you can answer that, then Saga is not more than like a speed bump. But if it's centered around Saga, like 8cast maybe can be sometimes, then like I said, I have more removal for the construct, and I try to keep them off drawing cards while I draw cards myself. It's like the plan, at least. It's not a very good plan, but it is a plan. So,
you know what I was gonna say? I was gonna say like your Nightmare would probably be a Saga deck that also draws a lot of cards, which then like a second later I realized, okay, that's just your deck.
Yeah, nobody likes to draw cards more than me, so I'm usually covered in that.
That's 8cast. To a degree, that's 8cast still, right? A Saga deck that draws a lot of cards. I mean, it does have a lot of like fluff, like stuff you don't really care about if you can answer like the beef. But I don't know, man. I feel like if I was playing this and I'm like not nearly as experienced with this as you, if I could avoid it, I wouldn't want to play like 8cast every other round.
No, definitely not. It's I love to draw cards, but I want to have a solid, stable deck as like high consistency as much as I want to draw cards. So 8cast, it's a very, very good deck, but it's not for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to shuffle my ponders.
Should we go on here? I saw somebody added something to the show notes.
So I've added something in as we're going along, just after we started pressing recording. So this is going to be out of the blue as we're doing it. But today I saw Phil Bleckman, who's Force Fulfills his Triumph of St. Catherine inspired Miracles deck. And I want to get Marcus's thoughts on it, and I want to just talk about it because it's crazy. Anyone that knows Force Fulfill, he's always loved like kind of Mystic Sanctuary and Terminus and Miraclesy things, but like he goes hard in the synergies.
What the fuck are some of those cards, dude?
What do you do?
Yes.
What the fuck? I'm reading the main deck and I'm reading the sideboard, and like half the cards don't even make any sense to me.
Cool. So that will be answered by him playing a pop quiz, obviously.
Yeah.
First of all, yeah. I thought it was like a placeholder card or something.
No. This is all real. So I'm going to have a quick run through the deck, and then I want to get Marcus's thoughts, and then I want to get Marcus's thoughts on Triumph of St. Catherine as well, because it's a card that we only see in the wild in paper currently, and we've talked about it a few times, but Marcus is quite high on the card. I've not been. So anyway. Quickly, Force Fulfill's crazy Miracles deck. He has 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor, better than all, 4 Triumph of St. Catherine, 4 Merchant Scroll, 4 Ponder, 4 Prismatic Ending, 4 Brainstorm, 1 Force of Negation, 4 Force of Will, 1 Pop Quiz, which I will read in a second, 4 Swords to Plowshares, 1 Thwart, 4 Counterbalance, 3 Dress Down, and then 20 lands, 4 Strands, 1 Island, 4 Misty, 3 Mystic Sanctuary. That's a lot. 1 Polluted Delta.
What's the greed in this deck?
2 Tropical Island, 4 Tundra, 1 Underground Sea.
That pop quiz better make the card work.
Okay,
that deck
so
work. I don't know what it does.
The pop quiz is 2 in a blue, so 3 mana total, instant, draw a card, and then learn, which is you may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand, or discard a card to draw a card.
Which kind of card from outside the game?
A lesson card.
Oh my god! Okay.
I guess you didn't play Strixhaven Unlimited.
I think that they had some kind of mechanic like that, and I was even like trying to see whether there's anything for Legacy, because it's kind of crazy when you think about that. You just like get +1 card advantage on that, but everybody was like, "No, there's nothing."
I mean, there's some cool stuff. So basically, the main deck is just straight blue-white, but we've got an Underground Sea and 2 Tropical Islands for some of the lessons and some sideboard cards. So in the sideboard, there's 2 Carpet of Flowers, 1 Entreat the Angels, 1 Hercules Recall, 1 Hydroblast, 2 Surgical Extraction. And then I'm just reading the non-lessons. 4 Temporary Lockdown. We'll go through that in a minute. And then the lessons, he has Confront the Past, which is 1 black X. This is what the Underground Sea is for. You choose 1. It's a sorcery. Return target Planeswalker card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or remove twice X loyalty cards from target Planeswalker component control. So,
not so fast. What's the mana cost?
A black and X. So for 5 mana, you can return a Jace from your graveyard to play. Or
Okay.
Or for like 5, you could take 4 loyalty counters off an opponent's Planeswalker. 1 Containment Breach, which is 2 and a green. It's a sorcery lesson. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If its mana value is 2 or less, create a 1/1 black-green insect pest creature token. With this, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So already we've seen like Planeswalker removal or recursion and artifact or enchantment removal for this pop quiz. Elemental Summoning is 3 and then hybrid blue-red, so 5 mana total. Sorcery, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. And then finally, Teachings of the Archaics is a 2 and a blue for a sorcery lesson as well. If an opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw 2 cards. Draw 3 cards instead if an opponent has at least 4 more cards in hand than you. So then like a divination, if you're behind on cards. So this like sideboard lesson package, it's a lot of like bullets, a lot of like, just random things. And keep in mind this pop quiz is an instant, so you can merchant scroll for it, and then you can like with 3 Mystic Sanctuaries keep rebuying it. And the merchant scroll, you can go and get the Thwart to return 3 islands, which is like 3 Mystic Sanctuary as well. So
this deck would make a lot more sense if you had a permanent high-tide going on.
Yes.
but this package, like this one pop quiz is gigabrain, and like it took me a minute to work out how consistent it's going to be to merchant scroll for the pop quiz and then keep rebuying it. And then, I mean, the late game grind of this deck is bananas. Marcus, what do you think?
Oh, I can't stop smiling. I love a good Cunning Wish board, I must say.
Dude.
And well, if you start with, I can start with the negative because I'm so happy about this list. The negative
Cool.
thing is mana, right? So I said that you have to figure out how much mana you have to spare in a certain metagame, and looking at Pop Quiz and Merchant Scroll, and if you curve Merchant Scroll for Pop Quiz, you're not really doing anything turn 2, 3. But that aside, this feels very good because you have all the different answers. You have them, like you find your thing and then it comes back. It's sort of like how we play Snapcaster Mage as well, right? You find your best card and then you run it again. And I also really like the deck building principle of not having the bad top decks, right? So you never want to draw any of these cards, but you have 1 pop quiz and you can find it when you need it. So it's very elegant in that sense. I like it. It's too bad that
It's really building around the merchant scroll.
Yeah, it's too bad that the cards are like twice as expensive as I would like them to be. But
yeah, my kind of, again, I've not played this at all. I literally just saw this about an hour ago, and I thought we have to talk about it. I imagine you merchant scrolls for Brainstorm a lot. I'm quite surprised there's just no Terminus at all in it, honestly.
Yeah, especially since there's Mystic Red Sanctuary, right? I guess Triumph is kind of like your thing that you use to hold back any kind of like.
So yeah, he'll be brainstorming back the Triumphs, and he mostly plays in paper, or maybe only exclusively in paper.
I was just gonna ask, like, are we looking at this because he won something with it, or is it more like an experimental?
He won
thing?
my heart.
It's an experimental thing. Yeah, he won Marcus's heart. Experiment, but like
The biggest prize there is.
Phil is he has his own way of building these decks. Like, this is a very Phil deck, but he plays on the 90s MTG channel quite a lot. So if people want to see this, I don't know, but he probably will play it on there. He has this crazy all altered decks all the time as well.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, he must have played probably a lot of Triumph for St. Katherine at this point. So he's obviously chosen that over Terminus, and that's where, like, just Merchant Scroll for Brainstorm to get Triumphs going and stuff.
Yeah, and Counterbalance as well to set that up.
Of course, yeah, true, good point. Yeah, and then this Thwart, it's a bit of a pet card of his, but it's no joke. Like, I know return 3 islands sounds like a big cost, but like a free counterspell is big. And then Mystic Sanctuary is a pretty messed up card, so you're going to be returning
you literally get to return the Mystic Sanctuaries, right? I remember Mark Vogt, the winner of the last Legacy GP in Bologna, like ever. He basically told me Thwart is an engine. And I think he was not even half joking. He was like a quarter joking or something. Like he really thinks like Thwart, stupid card, is an engine.
Yeah. No, I'm convinced that it is as well. Like, it's not just like a fun of, because it's cool and stuff. I think it, again.
Actually, now that I think about it, sorry to interrupt you there. Yeah, you play it, you get like some Mystic Sanctuaries back, and then later on you put Thwart back on top, and you get. I mean, it's so eating into your land drops, of course, but yeah. Okay.
But this game is trying to go super late, right? I mean, and now with the 4 Merchant Scrolls, just the 1 Thwart, you can go and grab it later as well.
I think this is another deck that can really only exist because Prismatic Ending exists.
Yeah, for sure. Like the 4 endings and the 4 swords, and then the 4 Force of Will is going to be in every single Tundra deck like this, and yeah, they're required. Also in the sideboard, for temporary lockdown, I'm going to read this. It's 1 white, 3 mana total for an enchantment. When temporary lockdown enters the battlefield, exile each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less until temporary lockdown leaves the battlefield. 4 of them, that's a statement. So I guess 8 cast, Painter maybe as well, and Death and Taxes. Elves, yeah, the Fiend Artisan elves and stuff. Seems cool. I mean, it's kind of weak if they can remove it. Like Boseiju, I guess, from Elves springs to mind.
I guess it reminds you a lot of like what Engineered Explosives is supposed to do in these kind of decks, right?
But yeah, I think it's really brutal against 8 cast for sure. Like, gets all their things.
Personally, I'm not that high on that card, but a card I think will come back, make a pretty big comeback now that Urza Saga is the best card in the format. It's March of Otherworldly Light, and that's sort of slot as well. It's maybe it's better than Prismatic Ending. Maybe I should run a split. I should really try that, because if the game is about having the Saga advantage, then it can solve that for you. 1 mana, Stone Rain, your best land. Also an instant, so it's pretty big.
I think that I think this deck really reminds me of like, I think it was like an old extended deck or something like that, where you I think it was like a band deck where you cast Cunning Wish for Hunting Pack, I think, end of turn, and really get them. I think like that was the basically quote unquote Entreaty Angels like back in the day, but I liked it so much.
I was gonna say, it's so funny you say that, because I also looked at this deck list and I was like, this reminds me so much in many ways of Landstill, like around 2005, 2006, like when some Landstill players played like Esper Landstill when they played Cunning Wish to get what was it, for Extirpate and stuff. And I mean, now our Pop Quiz is our Cunning Wish, and we get like a lot of bad overpriced cards, but we get like, we pay the extra mana to get the extra card advantage.
Yeah.
If
we want to touch on the mana base as well, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, go on.
Because there are no non-island decks lands.
Yeah,
which is kind of a statement. Do you really want that Mystic Sanctuary going?
I guess to support like being a proper blue-white deck, like with Triumph, you want to get something to produce white mana as soon as you have your second land in play in case you draw one. You know, reliance on basics can be awkward there, because these decks, like historically, cantrips decks do want to go like island into a blue fetch or something that's not a flood strand that you don't always draw them and stuff. So it is just saying, yeah, I'm just going to be fetching Tundras this whole game. And then the 2 drops and the 1 your Underground Sea are for like sideboard pop quiz targets and stuff. But you just, I guess, it does have one basic island, but you just want to be getting the Mystic Sanctuaries going from turn 4 all the time, I assume, because it is a full counterbalance deck as well still. So you're putting back these, I guess the Merchant Scroll is the 2 CMC thing for that as well. That's nice, because that was always a slot that's harder to fill, because you've got all the cantrips, then you've got like Force Negation at 3. And Pop Quiz at 3, of course. How can I forget?
And then the random counterbalance to like ruin somebody's day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're there. Yeah. But yeah, cool. As I said, I just saw it earlier and I thought this is such a wild take on it. And it's another segue into Marcus. I want to ask you about Triumph of St. Katherine, because it's still very hard to kind of get. I'm fairly lukewarm on the card, but I haven't played with it a ton or against it a ton. And it's really hard to, because it's only in paper, of course. So what's your experiences with it, and how do you think control should build around it?
Yeah, so my version has some beaters, right? You have this construct, you have the spirits, and that is very good against not only creature decks, but it's a huge deal against opposing control decks, because once they resolve the Teferi or Narset, I'm usually just dead. So it's important to have some sort of board going, and if you top deck that Terminus, you kind of don't want to get rid of a small construct and a spirit to deal with an initiative creature and a 2/2 goblin, right? But you have to. So it sort of creates this weird dynamic where you are forced to use it when you can, even though it's not ideal. And a Triumph, if you draw a Triumph, it's always good, and it plays so much better with your plows and how you want the game to progress. You don't want to spend actual cards. If you have a Triumph going and you draw another Triumph, that's perfect. If you have a Terminus and you draw another Terminus on an empty board, it sort of doesn't get anywhere. But you have to do that if, like, for example, if I'm playing against Julian, I just swiped his whole board. He's very upset, and then he plays another like a Nettle Sentinel or something. Then I top deck my Terminus, and sort of I have to do it. But if I have a Triumph instead, I can sort of protect the queen and have that as my plan. Maybe Elves is not the ideal example because you rather have Terminus, but I couldn't help but bring it, Julian.
Yeah, so...
that up. but you know, like Delver, for example, you get a 3-for-1 if you have a Triumph. Like if they have 3 creatures, you still keep up with 1 card. So it's sort of a same exchange.
What you're talking about is like the difference between actual card advantage and virtual card advantage, right?
Yeah, that was way better. Yeah, and lifelink is also very, very good because it sort of again creates a virtual card advantage since you're no longer afraid of the bolts off the top of their deck and so on. And so
yeah,
forth.
there's points like, I mean, Triumph I guess is incredible against Delver. That deck's kind of not the public enemy number 1, but like, you know, the rate when you miracle it for just 2 mana, a 5/5 lifelink, which then has this ability. I'm just gonna read it again so people are aware. When Triumph of St. Katherine dies, exile it in the top 6 cards of your library in a face down pile. If you do, shuffle that pile and put it back on top of your library. So unless you source the Plowshares it to exile it, like it's gonna keep coming back in the next few turns. And again, it's always alongside Ponders and Brainstorms, so you're going to find it faster. So it's there. And don't forget, Miracle lets you cast it at instant speed. So, you know, if you set it up with a staff, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So actually, on that note, like Marcus, how have you built around Triumph of St. Katherine? Like, do you have it built up in paper?
Yeah, like I said, I played a tournament this weekend and I swapped my 3 Terminus, and I actually had 1 Wandering Emperor over my 2nd Surgical, I think. So the swap there was just 4 Triumphs in the sideboard.
So just sideboard, not main deck.
But I have a list like that as well, and I play 18 lands, 4 baubles, 4 predict, 4 Triumph, 4 staff. The usual suspects, but again, a low curve and only 18 lands, 4 baubles.
This is my kind of thing. When Triumph first came out, like I pre-ordered them, and the first shell I tried was with predicts and baubles and stuff.
Yeah,
I like it.
So the first version I ran, I don't think it was that good because Triumph is not a very good card unless Lifelink is relevant. I think that's how you summarize it. But now with staff,
you're saying it's like it's more of a sideboard card is where you land.
So it's good against half the field, but I don't want to play it as my win con in a control mirror or against combo really. But staff sort of covers that because it's the opposite. It's a 2 mana do nothing, draw a card. So that's what you need to make up for having a 5/5 beater for 2 mana.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think that's a good deck also.
Yeah, hopefully this year we're going to get Triumph St. Katherine and all the 40k cards online. We're being pushed into Q3 now, I think they said. So maybe
they were hoping for Q3. Could also be Q4. So who knows? Yeah. By the way, quick shout out to Johannes Gutbrot who won the last etc., which was also it's so many things, but among other things, it was also a qualifier for the German Legacy Nationals and gives him 2 buys or something. And he also played 3 copies of Triumph of St. Katherine in his 4-color Uro control deck. So that card seems to be pretty popular. Well, at least in paper. It's kind of hard to make it work on Magic Online, I guess. Yeah, that's that. So, Marcus, how would you sum up the position of your Jeskai Staff blade right now? Has it been teched out pretty well, or are there still some like construction sites that you're working on?
There's always some room to improve, especially breakfast. I think it's something I have to address, and like I mentioned before, I don't really know how because it's a combo deck with a grindy plan and a beatdown plan and blah blah blah. So I have to address that.
It loses to everything, but it also is able to beat every kind of hate, which is for longest of times, like when the deck was first around, we joked about how it loses to everything, like graveyard hate, creature hate, what have you, which is like pretty uncommon for a combo deck. But in a way, that's also its strength, because Legacy is so powerful, you usually have like pretty dedicated cards. And let's say a card like Lane After Void is not nearly as good against Breakfast as it would be against any kind of like super strong dedicated graveyard deck.
But I also want to flip that argument around, because the usual suspects like Surgical Extraction is sort of bad, because my deck is a slow deck, so you have all the time in the world, and I have to respect what the Cephali Breakfast deck can do. So what ends up happening is that they just whistle cycle for their Oracle, and then they mill their deck, and then just play it from hand.
And you're like, yeah, Surgical, hey, here we go. Worst case scenario is when they have like Kevin of Souls as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of ways for them to set it up, and they have discard, they have Teferi and Orim's Chant, and some decks run Staff, some run Day, some have Stoneforge Mystic. So all those things, like Callum mentioned before, it's hard to know until it's too late.
Kai, haven't you been playing Breakfast lately? I don't even remember. I think you bought Elves, or was it Breakfast? I literally can't remember. I think you're
I bought
into
like
Elves
2
now, right?
new legacy decks this year. Yeah, it was separate Breakfast and Elves, and dude, I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much until the point where you draw too many Narcomoebas.
Which version do you play now, Kai?
I'm currently on a Stoneforge Mystic build with a lot of Daisies, and while I don't play Triumph of St. Catherine, because I think like last time I played it, it was during the peak of Initiative and Delver, and they played a lot of Snuff Outs, and Snuff Out is obviously super good versus Triumph of St. Catherine. I've been testing this Shadow Sphere quite a bit, which is, which kind of makes your Narcomoebas like pseudo Triumph of St. Catherine, like baby versions of them.
Oh my god! Help me out. What does Shadow Sphere do?
It gives like +1/+1 and lifelink and trample. So you get usually your Narcomoebas trade with Delvers, and you get a bit of lifelink and stuff like that.
That's an equipment. I'm actually looking it up right now.
Yeah, Shadow Sphere.
Shadow Sphere. I thought Shadow Sphere. I was like, what is Shadow Sphere?
It's like literally like I think one of the ways how like modern Hammer Time beats on Is It Murktide is just having those constructs out there and having the Shadow Sphere online, and like that's how they beat them. And I kind of wanted to do the same in Legacy maybe, because like if you have a 4/4/5/5 constructs with lifelink, that's not too bad, right?
On this topic, I played Breakfast at one local like a month or so ago with Staffs, and I think I had Stoneforges as well, but that was a bit clunky. But it was interesting because I played against 3 control decks all the rounds, and each round I was told I was weird after this for doing this, but I sided all the Nomads in core out because they kind of suck, and I like sided even an Alchemy route because I was like, I'm gonna get to the late game, I'm gonna have these random spirit tokens. You don't need all the creatures in play, and God, the deck just grinded so well. Like
that's insane, dude.
I just outground all these control decks. It went to the super late game, and then eventually I was just like Illusionist countered Illusionist, and then like you force a will their 2 surgicals and endurance, and then it's over. But the deck, like having Sagas and Staff in the deck, when you can then present like a turn 2 kill with force a will as well, it's made, I think that build is super good, and it's just so hard to play against because it attacks from all these different angles, and the grinding power of that Staff plus Saga package is insane.
For sure.
I hate it. Dude. I don't, every time, like I don't even care how good a deck is. When a deck is super hard to like, tackle on a strategic level because it has like different things going on. That's what I try to do to people, right? That's how I used to build Elves, and like I played a lot of Elves again lately. I streamed it, and I played another league where I went.
Sounds like you should play some Staff Breakfast.
Stuff Elves, yeah.
Stuff Elves.
But once people...
Dude, what? No.
Stuff Elves. Grist turns it on, Julian.
Bring a Ren's Run Packmaster back.
Oh, yeah,
wait,
my god.
Grist and stuff? Hey?
Oh, there's also this like 4 mana elf that makes like a token when you...
Oh, the lower guy,
could also
the
just
champion
play...
on elf thing. Packmaster, right?
Yeah. No, well, those are 2 different ones. The champion and elf is Packmaster. I'm not talking about the pauper one, but actually there's an even better one, which would be... Would be Hivemaster. Hivemaster just makes the token whenever an elf comes to play.
Insects.
Yeah.
And then Grist. Yeah. And
it's so deep.
Too bad there's no cool insect tokens out there to use with it, but...
I wish somebody made insect tokens. I don't know where you can get them. Maybe one day,
Yeah.
One day. I recently I was in Berlin and wanted to buy some. I just couldn't imagine where I could get them.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe one day.
What we're hinting at is
can we make this
Kai
makes some very cool insect
Can
tokens.
we make this like less awkward?
I was gonna say like, what is Kai ever gonna say to this? Hey, I make insect tokens, right? Buy from me, give me money. Like, yeah, dude, that's like marketing, like first semester bad.
All right, I'm gonna do a Julian. Speaking of insects, have you guys seen the Intervention Pact and Wheel of Misfortune combo?
No, actually I have, because I put it in the show notes. But
Thank you. Dude, I think I played against this deck like the other day, and I was on Elves, and I didn't do shit against it.
You played it on Magic Online?
Yeah, I played against on Magic Online. It was, this deck list is by Killer Bee, I suppose. But I played against a different player, but that's like how fast deck lists spread on Magic Online. That was
But
crazy.
if you just showed me these 4 cards, because to quickly like provide an intro, after Callum already provided the best intro, Killer Bee recently top 8'd yet again another Legacy challenge, and this time it's absolute madness. This looks like ChatGPT had been asked for like could think about it for like 3 weeks and then come up with the best Legacy decklist imaginable. Because we got copies of Dream Savage, Runehorn Hellkite, Intervention Pact, and Wheel of Misfortune. And if you know more than 2 out of those 4 cards, you are a master. I want to say, like, I had no idea what Dream Savage is. And for those who don't know, Dream Savage, actually, is there even no point in reading out these cards because decklist is just so insane. But yeah, Dream Savage is an instant from Lauren, either a blue or a black. Draw cards equal to the number of cards target opponent discarded this turn.
Now, Julian, why would opponents be discarding cards?
I don't know, because we forced them to.
Oh, how do you do that?
Well, there's a dragon, like that's
No
a tried and true way in Legacy, right?
It attacks 4 times.
If you don't like your opponents, yeah.
It's a 6 mana 5/5 flying, right?
Yeah, that's what we do. We get the 6, 5 colorless, a red creature dragon flying 5/5. Hey, we're almost there, right? And then it has another ability. When it's in the graveyard, you can pay 5 colorless and a red, exile it from your graveyard. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws 7 cards. So I guess that's how we do it. Like our combo is like a 5/6 mana dragon from Lorwyn and 1 mana very situational draw spell from. Oh, actually, the dragon is from Dungeons and Dragons. Never, dude. This is just like the most confusing deck. I should not be in charge of explaining deck lists.
So Runehorn Hellkite, it's like, again, it's just for the ability. I bet Killer Bee has actually cast it once or twice, which is going to be hilarious, but it's really for the ability. So 6 mana total, exile it from your graveyard, and then each person Wheel of Fortunes, basically. Yeah, so the Dream Salvage is your follow-up, and then you'll draw another 7. It's kind of like extra echoes, right? So the deck still has 3 Echo of Eons, and this deck is just completely abusing Lion's Eye Diamond so badly that, like, you know, Lion's Eye Diamond's... this is the most broken it's ever been, I think. And...
it's also playing 3 copies of Magnificent Gardens to make even additional copies of it.
Yeah. So just all the LEDs. So it does cost 2 LEDs to then flashback rather than the 1 for Echo, but it's uncountable as the payoff, and it is just also now having like 7 of these, and you keep going off, and like you can discard the Hellkites to the Riddlesmith if you draw it as well. God, the one-offers in this deck are crazy. So I think the deck just draws its whole deck every time because it's got like 1 Hull Breacher, 1 Waste Not, 1 Intervention Pact, which I'll talk about in a second, 1 Silence, 1 Noxious Revival, and then 1 Grape Shot to win later, I guess. But then 4 Wheel of Misfortune. So it actually has the 4 Hellkites, 4 Wheel of Misfortune, and 3 Echo of Eon. So this deck is just wheeling and dealing. Wheel of Misfortune is 2 and a red sorcery, and then each player secretly chooses a number, 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. So Kai chooses 2, I choose 1, Kai is chosen higher. Well done. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. So Kai takes 2. Each player who didn't choose the lowest discards... Oh no, the other way around, sorry. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards. How this works with Intervention Pact. God, why are we talking about?
It's super interesting because of intervention. Okay, let me take that.
Go on.
Killer Bee previously used to play a spell that basically prevented all the damage a certain spell would deal, and you would gain life equal to the damage prevented.
It was like a random, like 1 mana instant from Darksteel or something.
No. It actually was... Actually, I can look it up. Give me a second. I can edit this out. Because it's important because there's a difference... his name is this.
Angel's Grace? No.
Let me find it. No. Here it is. It's from... Oh, did you say Darksteel? Yeah, this is from Darksteel.
I knew I was right. That's why I was quiet.
Like in my head, I heard Dark, and I thought like Darkness, which is like way back. But anyway, you're right. It's from Darkness. Fuck it. It's from Darksteel. It's called Hello. It's 1 white instant. I'm reading this over my microphones outside. Actually, here we go. It's an instant, 1 white. Prevent all damage target spell would deal this turn. You gain life equal to the damage prevented this way. So why is Intervention Pact different? First of all, you don't need to pay mana for it, at least not right away. And second of all, it only prevents the damage that is dealt to you. So this way it prevents your opponent from also just like choosing whichever crazy high number you choose. And now they actually have to face the consequences, right? If they picked a number that was way too high. Well, I guess since you... And this is interesting. So, where do we start from here? No, it's so interesting because like we're talking about the wrong card right now. First of all, like Wheel of Misfortune. you would think like maybe my opponent just chooses an insanely high card. If the opponent knows that I have this combo going on where I can gain life because I prevent Wheel of Misfortune from dealing damage and then I gain an insanely high amount of life, the opponent could easily just like pick a higher number. Yes, but then the opponent dies. I mean, we also wouldn't gain life, but we don't take damage if they pick a higher number. And we have the ability to hello this out, I guess. Now with Intervention Pact, it doesn't really matter. We can just like choose a number that's really, really high and the opponent can't really keep up with it anyway. If they somehow manage to get a higher number and could not die. So, I mean, I'm explaining this a little weird because I'm also in part explaining it to myself right now.
My brains are dribbling out of my head.
I'm thinking, could you pact a pact and gain the life?
Marcus, don't ask questions like that, please.
Pact a pact? Like, no, you can't pact the Intervention Pact because the Intervention Pact, I mean, you can, but it wouldn't do anything.
But that, okay. Yeah, it's not that sort.
The Intervention Pact doesn't deal any damage. No, but the way that makes it even more confusing to people is Wheel is limited to a number of 255 on Magic Online because we still live like in the 80s and we can't choose numbers that are higher than 255.
Yeah.
So that whole game of like who chooses the higher number doesn't exist in the first place and would have also been not really all that relevant anyways unless the opponent also had a way to not die because we are the masters of like who gets to live and die with Hello or Intervention Pact. But technically, you know, that's in paper, that's a weird scenario if the opponent could actually like stay alive because they had like, let's say their own Intervention Pact or whatever. But yeah, practically, I guess in a way it's actually good that you can only choose 255. So that scenario doesn't ever come up. The interesting thing is, what if both players choose 255 and can stay alive? Can you figure that out?
No. Oh, don't crash Modo for everyone, please.
No, I haven't. I don't know.
If both players pick 255, they both take 255 damage, unless you Intervention Pacted, of course, which I guess you should. And you don't draw cards.
Oh, I
because
see. Okay.
While both players pick the highest number, both players also pick the lowest number. And only the players who didn't pick the lowest number get to draw cards. And this is just like, you know, at that point your brain kind of melts, unless you've heard about this before.
But you probably both died as well?
No, but you stay alive because you have Intervention Pact.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay.
So
yeah, of course.
That means that the opponent is not even incentivized to pick a really high number, right? The opponent, it doesn't really matter what the opponent picks unless
you
they
both
can
die
stay
and
alive.
everyone wins.
Cool.
Technically, you could both die if you just like play this as a Hail Mary and the opponent somehow picks a really high number and you pick exactly the same high number and don't Intervention Pact. Like, it's honestly like Killer Bee probably gets a lot of wins just because the opponents don't understand the card.
It's wild.
Yeah, seriously. I think like Wheel of Misfortune is like, it got a lot of criticism, I think, when the card came up, because like it is so hard to understand what this card does. And I gotta be honest with you guys, like I still don't really understand what this card does. All I know that there's some sort of Wheel of Fortune included and a lot of extra text on it.
Yeah.
And I can totally
summed up perfectly.
Yeah, dude, I can totally see. It's kind of like similar to what's it called, Council Judgment, when it came out, when people were like, oh, you know, you choose my true name nemesis. I guess I'm gonna just vote for the other true name nemesis, and then they both go away. And it's kind of like the same here with Wheel of Misfortune, where people might just accidentally just kill themselves just because they don't really know what this card does. And
I think Wizards is just exposing us to increasing levels of like weird sentences. You know how there's this other card that like searches your opponent's deck, a library for a certain card, and then you exile the card, and then it does something completely unrelated. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
like
it's a green creature. Yeah, I know what you mean. And
which people like posted on Twitter and were like, what does this card actually do? I'm not even like getting remotely close to understanding it.
I can't remember the name, but it's very weird. But yeah.
You know, half the time it's just because they need to make it work for Commander, because they have to like phrase it in ways that covers all bases, which like is so. It's not infuriating. I don't really care, but it's at least it's kind of like an explanation.
Yeah, hats off to Killer Bee for making another even more crazy mad deck.
I mean, mad shout out to him, because we're over here figuring out the 20th land. And he's like, these 5 cards nobody ever seen before. Let's top 8 another challenge. It's so
not
impressive.
only does he understand Wheel of Misfortune, he's playing 4 Top 8's a challenge and like seeing this combo of Wheel plus Intervention Pact. And I didn't even know Runehorn Hellcat existed till.
And
I
all
saw
this like stress he puts on people, like Dream Salvage. You cast that in paper. Like, how many cards did you discard this game? Well, I've never thought about that. So.
Yeah, it looks like the weirdest deck that your little brother would build back in school, like the one copy of Noxious Revival. Hey, I'm gonna get my good cards. And what else have we? Like the one of Waste Not, because we opened it in a booster that we got for free, and Silence, because Silence is like a newbie favorite. But Killer Bee is like the mad scientist, so actually puts all these like weird things together and makes it work big time.
Imagine if this list was posted on like MTG The Source 10 years ago. Like,
dude, I want to travel back in time and just like post this on the source in like 2006 and be like, this is the future. This is what we're working with.
No, but also just be like, hey guys, got a new deck. I've played it a few times at my locals, did quite well. What do you think? And it would just get absolutely slammed. Like,
yeah, it's like, did you get disconnected when you queued? What's that?
No. Also, I made like a horrifying experience. Just found out that this Runehorn Hell card. I just took a closer look at this card, and this card is secretly insane versus Thassa's Oracle.
Oh yeah,
because you can like this is there's no way a Doomsday deck or Cephalid deck can beat a Runehorn Hell card in graveyard and 6 mana available. Like double. If the opponent has double LED and Runehorn Hell card in play, you cannot win with Thassa's Oracle. That is insane. Because like it's the 6 mana activated ability.
Yeah, shit.
And
I guess
everyone draws
both LEDs at end of turn or something.
Oh my goodness!
And then...
Oh my
god!
Yeah,
I mean, you could get like Teferi, some Narcomoebas, and like enough blue pips.
But Teferi doesn't really do it, does it?
No, but I'm saying you can get enough blue pips in play to have 7 loyalty, and then mill down to 7 cards. Technically, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This is a freaking nightmare. Like this kind of reminds me of this is like the supercharged what's it called? The Cephalic Colosseum, versus Doomsday. This is insane.
Yeah. I can't understate how good that thing is at Calamus. It can't be countered. Well, you can stifle and needle it, but I played against Killer Bee in this actual event, and they played a Waste Not, and I was like, okay, well, I can see where this is going. I'll counter Echo. Okay, here's a lead. Okay, I can see where this is going. I'll counter Echo. And then it's like, okay, I discard my 2 forces. And, well, that's game. Well, from the Hellkite, I mean. They had the Hellkite.
By the way, in Killer Bee's most recent list that he posted on Twitter, he has a pull from eternity in the sideboard. Do you guys have any idea what that's supposed to do?
Yeah,
yes.
Dude, that's like a
Echoes, right?
like a what's it called? Yeah, like a sideboard staple from like way back when we had 10 fins, I think. It's
I mean, I know what the card does, but what does it do in this deck?
Oh,
I mean, know. You can like bring an Echo back to cast it again.
Oh, that actually works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's a one-off in the sideboard, I guess. Like, how do we?
Grape shots get surgically extracted, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess if somebody takes away like your grape shots on your dragons or something.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, the best card in this deck is LED, but you can only grab 1 back.
LED is so insane. Like this deck would play probably like 8 LEDs or something.
Oh, it would play like 15 probably.
It's just like LED dot deck. Like who needs Black Lotus? Like in this deck, LED is literally better than Black Lotus.
Yeah.
And this is also like how do you approach this in the dark? If your opponent lead on LED, it could be Dredge, it could be whatever. And in some cases you should force it, in some cases you should not, right?
Yeah. I've approached this deck quite often, and so many times I've actually lost with like all the hate in the world, and then I just lose to Urza Saga making constructs. Like I sit there, like let's say I have like Nilrod or what have you, and yeah, Killer Bee just goes there. Yeah, okay, Urza Saga. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. There is no Ancient Tombs in this one, as opposed to he normally plays them in the Riddler.
Oh, true. But so yeah, this is even more dedicated to combo then, so a little less mid range. Well, it's funny when you talk about like less mid rangey. Like this deck is it's not mid rangey at all.
Not really. No, this is just crazy combo. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So get your Runehorn Hellkites before they inevitably spike after Killer Bee wins the next 5 challenges in a row or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Cool.
So there's one more deck I want to talk about. And that deck actually goes back to, I want to say like half a year ago. Kai, you remember when you picked up that really bad Dredge deck that you thought was like horrible and that we trash talked, and then
for everyone who doesn't know, I picked up a Dredge deck and I just forgot to dredge the whole time. Is
that why it didn't work for you?
No, yeah, like it was a good league. It was like a classy 05 league. Yeah, I just didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. But I am super pumped whenever I see someone do well with Dredge, because Dredge is some of the crazy archetypes in Legacy. You know, obviously a super powerhouse in Vintage, and we saw, like, I think the Dredge was probably like the most powerful in the Legacy probably like more than 10 years ago, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I want to say like the heyday of Dredge was basically around 2010, 11.
Yeah, something like that. But here we have like a crazy looking deck list. It even plays like Force of Will, so that's for all the control mages out there.
Yeah, this one's coming to us from Mafus van Gogh. And I think these days, whenever you see somebody doing well with Dredge, it's basically Mafus or I guess the daddy still shows up every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, I just like love that story. Anyway, that's a different podcast episode. Hello, I'm the daddy.
Yes.
Love this so much. So yeah, this is one part.
Actually,
Dredge.
I forgot to say, I had a great, just quick story with him. I met him again at the last Axion, and he's got a kid now. So but I didn't realize that. He's like, "Hey Callum, do you want to see a picture of the baby?" I was like, "Wait, what? The baby, the underscore baby?" I was like, "Oh, wait." He's like, "Yeah, I've got a kid now," and shows me a picture. It's like, "Oh, god damn it!"
So he's like an actual daddy now. Yeah,
dude, he's actually the daddy. Yeah. Shout outs. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's perfect. The mommy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, so Mafus van Gogh, absolutely crazy person who decided, Dredge, why shouldn't we put the very best card into Dredge, which is Brainstorm? So this card, when you look at it on the surface, it's basically Dredge. It has like 4 Necromobers, 4 Stinkledim, 4 Golgari, Grave Troll, 3 Icarus, 1 Hogak, for 1 Ashen Rider, I guess 1 Dread Return. Yeah, 1 Dread Return, 4 Cable Therapy, 4 Careful Study. Everything is normal until now.
3
now
grief as well.
Yeah, 3 Grief, I guess these days is also now. I haven't played Dredge in a while. Yeah, but 3 Grief is also pretty standard. As far as like standard Dredge lists these days go in the first place. And then we are only playing 2 copies of Breakthrough. And that is making room for a bunch of other stuff. Of course, we're playing 4 Bridges. So I guess innovation is 4 Brainstorms and 4 Otherworldly Gaze. Callum, remind me, what does Gaze do again?
Gaze is 1 blue instant. You look at the top 3. You surveil 3 basically, and then it has flashback for 1 a blue. Surveil 3 again.
Oh, but you don't get to draw a card?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's okay.
It's worse than you thought, but yeah.
But the flashback is the thing. Okay, so we're not playing red for, or I guess the rainbow mana base for Faithless Looting, but we're playing like Brainstorm and Otherworldly Gaze. I guess that's the big difference.
The other thing is the mana base is fetches and underground seas and islands.
Yeah, which is like because we don't need those 5-color lands, right? We can just like go all in on like a more healthier mana base.
Yeah, so I think he calls it slow dredge, so it's just even better at the slower grinding game. Like, although that historic dredge with LEDs and Faithless Looting and the rainbow mana base is like incredibly good against fair decks, it's sometimes just lost a game with like the cantripping or the looting card getting forced or something, especially forced negation against like Faithless Looting, or like sometimes an LED getting countered, just that was your one enabler.
Or,
and then you don't really
in
do
cases
much
when you have 2
one.
and you get one countered and they get wastelanded. No,
yeah, that as well, for sure. But this is just like super resilient. It's even more resilient than ever against like kind of interaction like that. So, I mean, I can see this deck just shredding fair decks.
Yeah, I guess this means Kai is gonna buy his 3rd deck of the year now.
Dude, I made a promise I will never ever play Cephalic Colosseum. Like this card is just like unbelievable good versus Thassa's Oracle, and Thassa's Oracle remains my favorite creature of all time, probably. So, but this is really cool looking, and also like I was wondering about this Otherworldly Gaze, but I think another reason to play this card over any like non-blue spell is because because of those force of wills in the sideboard. Kind of interesting to see that. Like Bazaar decks in Vintage can always play like all the forces, which is crazy powerful, right? Like you dredge and you have free counter magic and stuff like that. And while this deck doesn't maybe need the force of wills on the main board because it is still card disadvantage and you don't want to pitch your your careful studies and brainstorms, I really do like the force of will plus grief kind of plus doing the dredge thing versus combo decks. It doesn't look too bad to me, at least.
Yeah, it certainly makes it work. I think post-board, if you bring in the 4 forces, you technically have 22 blue cards, assuming you don't take out any of the other blue cards, which is like serviceable. That works. And it also, as you mentioned, you don't need it in the main deck. You do need it more in the sideboard games where like the big hate is coming in against you, unless somebody's like Marcus and has like his main deck graveyard hate already.
I really, really like this for game 2, especially because you have to sort of hedge with Dredge, with like that one Wear Tear and Nature's Claim or what have you. And those are just poopy cards more or less. But with the Force of Will and an Archimeba that you happen to draw, well, then you're set for their whatever, the first thing they have.
Oh, that's actually smart. That's a good point. So when you look at the bounce spells, Stern Dismissal and Kiora's Dismissal, those are basically there to deal with Leyline of the Void, and everything else you can force, right? Leyline's the only thing you can't force that's good against. I guess Fairy Macabre, but then you also have discard for that.
Yeah, and
right.
you pitch the bounce spell as well if they...
Right. Also, I mean, there is endurance still in Legacy, right? And like it's kind of hard to get rid of endurance, or like to prevent it at least.
And plus, like you said, you have the slow Dredge. You have 7 discard spells and 4 forces. Well, how are your combo deck supposed to kill you before you slowly kill them with a Nicorid, bringing back a 2/2 every turn? It's very good against not only graveyard hate, but opposing combo decks.
Actually, let me look up what he actually managed to beat on the way to the championship, I guess. Show and Tell, Delver, Suffer Breakfast, Tesserator, Suffer Breakfast, Reanimator, Delver, Lance, Delver, and Suffer Breakfast in the finals again. Yeah, I guess.
This would be so good against Reanimator. It forces ley lines and discard and
yeah, for sure.
And I mean, it's still Dredge, right? It can still like produce a pretty fast kill.
For sure. I really like it. And also, I think part of this, the whole... people don't respect fast graveyard decks enough. We haven't seen a Rest in Peace or a Containment Priest in a while. At least not plenty of them. It's mostly the usual suspects, a few Surgicals and Endurance out of control decks.
Yeah, actually a lot of Fairy Macabres because of Cephalid Breakfast, right? And so if that's on your radar with the Cabal Therapies in this deck, you can get through that pretty easily.
It's kind of funny when MTG Goldfish had their most recent Legacy article about the state of the format. Once again, Reanimator, not by far, but by a noticeable margin, the most played deck, but still only sitting like at a roughly 50% win rate. So never really being crazy, but it's just everywhere. It's when I play leagues, it's everywhere. When I play challenges on the rare occasions, it's like pretty well represented. So I think people are respecting it quite a lot. But yeah, Mafu's just there like, oh, I don't even care. Like, let me just work through this.
Yeah, and you can also work through graveyard hate by volumes of good cards in your graveyard too, right? So Fair Macabre and Surgical are not... those are excellent against the Reanimator, but it's not the end-all be-all versus Dredge, because they can just pitch another thing and get going, or have 3 of them in the graveyard against an opposing Fair Macabre.
Cool. So guys, before we close it out there, we have a question submitted to us from Beagle from the Everyday Eternal Discord. And Beagle's asking, given the recent success of Rhinos in Legacy, are there any other primarily modern shells that you think should be further explored in Legacy for potential porting into the format? Is there anything in Modern that stands out to you right now? I think, Kai, you've been like the most modern active player of us.
Is it Murktide? Like, hello? That's
I mean,
literally...
That's already
Ragavan. I think Ragavan would be good in Legacy. I don't know what...
I was going to say,
guys,
I'll
you're not very good at answering the question.
Yeah, I would totally unban Ragavan and Excruciation.
Eagle, I'm so sorry.
Jokes aside, I actually have modern MTG Goldfish open, and I've been just like having it browsed through, and I don't see anything for me that jumps out. Like Footfalls is one of the top decks there. Hammer Time is already being kind of taken in.
Dude, Hammer's pretty good. Yeah.
But like, it's already in. Like, is there any decks that aren't being played in Legacy? I do need to bring up that Anurag historically played against legit modern Yawgmoth in a challenge and lost. It was Jujubin who beat him with just modern Yawgmoth in a challenge.
I remember that. That's actually pretty funny. And he lost to like turn 1 Young Wolf, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that's kind of hilarious. Holy shit.
But actually, honestly, I was going to bring that one up.
Okay, Yawgmoth is maybe, like, it's a very powerful card. I just think the supporting shell, because Legacy has access to stuff like Brainstorm and Finding Terminuses and Source of Plowshares, it's, I don't know, Yawgmoth has to play a lot of bad cards like Young Wolf, even though it obviously is pretty good sometimes. I think it's just, like, not quite there. But, yeah, that would be probably, out of all the ones I'm looking through, maybe. Glimpse combo, potentially.
I like how there's on MTG Goldfish there's a category that's literally called generic Ragavan. Because there's Rectus Midrange, Murktide Regent, and then they have an extra category for literally just generic Ragavan decks.
A really cool combo is Tamishi and Lotus Bloom. You could do Tamishi and LED kind of stuff potentially.
What does Tamishi do?
It's 3 mana, 2 in a blue for a 2/3. It has two abilities, which are both kind of relevant. One is whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card, but it only triggers once each turn, so nice card. But you can pay a white and X, return a land you control to its owner's hand, return target artifact or enchantment with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. So you can sack an LED for 3 white or a Lotus Bloom or whatever, and then you can bounce a land, use one of the white to return it, and then you're netting 2 mana each time for each land you can bounce. So if you have ways to put more lands into play, I don't know.
Yeah.
It is like something that dies to bolt. It's blue and it's a legend for Caracas. Like, it's pretty fragile. But
I know Force of Phil. He sort of took 8 casts for a ride and removed all the win cons and add Tamishi in that. So you have Emery, you have all of that return bobbles and stuff. And that's an interesting angle. So you can have that sort of combo finish in that 8-cost shell. That should be, in theory, it should be very strong, I think, if you can.
Because it's just good at getting value regardless, and then you can build a combo in with the card, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know otherwise. Like, Indomitable creativity is pretty big there, like, but it's just going to be worse than like show and tell and stuff, isn't it? And sneak attack and things.
Pretty much. Like, the mana base is not great, and you're trying to resolve a 4-mana thing.
But it's always so hard to say these things, because like, if you asked me if Footfalls and Hammer Time weren't in Legacy and you asked me, I'd probably say no. So like, I couldn't see them, especially Hammer Time. I would say, oh yeah, I don't know, with like so much more interaction, and like, I just wouldn't see it, especially. But
I thought about the Jund deck of sorts. You have the 3 pitch elementals, you have Grist, and you can sort of build that a take on the Bloodbraid Elf deck from 10 years ago. We haven't seen that, so that could be something.
Power 22, like, every few months will post some Jund deck with Ignoble Hierarchs and stuff, and then say like, yeah, I went 2-3 as expected.
Yeah.
So what about that Rakdos mid-range deck? I mean, we don't have Ragavan, of course, but I mean, everything else is like Grief, Fury, Doughty Voidwalker, Lightning Bolt.
So I mean, maybe you guys remember, but at the last 4 seasons for Lonya, I played with Cephalic Breakfast at the main event, and I lost to that deck. I lost. I literally lost to Rakdos mid range.
Shadow as well, right?
That was, there were some Death Shadows in it, but it was pretty much a Shockland based Rakdos Doughty Voidwalker Kolaghan's command deck, and dude, like, that deck wrecked Cephalic Breakfast so hard.
Those cards are good against it.
Yeah, and I also like punted several times because I just wasn't used to play against all those cards at the same time. It's like, dude, what are the modes on Kolaghan's command again? Like, I had to like I made a lot of mistakes in that game, but yeah, like, it's actually not a bad archetype. You might want to fix a few things here and there, but.
Dude, whenever I see it in action, when I do like commentary for Energy on modern events, it looks pretty impressive, not gonna lie. Like, all these like Undying Malice and stuff. What's the other one called? Feign Death, I believe. Those are really good.
There is I've forgotten his real name, but Punishy Waterfalls, he posts Legacy YouTube videos and stuff. He's been building a black-red kind of shadow list. So I've just found it. I'm gonna post it to you.
Oh yeah, played against.
I'll post it in the show notes, then we're gonna post it in the show notes links.
Cool. So yeah, I'm just posting it now. We'll post it in the show notes. But yeah, he plays full Grief and Reanimates and stuff. I really think Grief and Reanimate is a super powerful kind of combo.
Yeah, and they have the DRC as well, right? So you can surveil the creatures.
Yep. So he's got 16 lands, 14 lands and 2 pedals, 4 Grief, 4 Stuff Out, 4 Street Wraith, 4 Baubles, 4 Shadow, 4 Reanimate, 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 DRC, 4 Scourge of the Skyclaves, 3 Hymns, and a Team of Battle Rage. And he's got a goddamn Ank of Mishra in the sideboard.
Of course he does.
And 4 Meltdowns. But yeah, like, this deck is super low to the ground. Like, it operates off 1 or 2 mana. It, like, the curve stops at 3 Hymn and 4 Scourge of the Skyclaves, and it's just operating off everything else being super cheap, and like, it's kind of like a very disruptive aggro deck, I guess.
Yeah, I just opened it. It looks pretty similar to what I was proposing. It doesn't really have that scam synergy, I believe. But yeah, I guess we have Reanimate, which is
like, Reanimate's like what they play in Modern for like the Feign Deaths and stuff, but it's just a bit better.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's our answer. It's maybe there's an outside Yawgmoth in there as well.
Right. Sorry, I've just seen his most updated list has 3 Sign in Blood as well.
That's pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the card that's coming back into Legacy. Sign and Blood Knights Whisper.
Cool. I'm gonna send you the most recent link to post in the stream notes.
But maybe
Okay, cool.
we can sum it up for Beagle to just say that like so many modern decks are so powerful these days, and the gap between the modern and Legacy is just it's not very big as it used to be. So literally any deck can, with maybe like a few tweaks can probably make it to like a Legacy level of some sort.
You mean opposite,
Yeah,
right?
Modern even gets to play a lot of cards that are banned in Legacy in the first place.
It's the opposite.
Like imagine if we were playing like a Legacy against Modern Showcase or something,
Dude.
and then Marcus sits down and somehow he doesn't have his removal, and
Yeah.
the opponent goes turn 1 Ragavan,
And they
I
got
was
like,
what?
dude, they got a turn 1 Ragavan into turn 2 Ren and 6 or something
Yeah.
like that. Holy shit.
Cool. So before we close it out, I think Kai, you have a really big announcement, right? You're getting engaged. No, you.
sort of though. Like this is it's kind of similar. So yeah, I just finished one of my bigger projects, probably if not the biggest project I've done so far. For Solitaryx. So the new homepage is live now, and including an online shop, and basically what you can find there are like my new tokens, my stickers, and other MTG items such as playmats and deck dividers, like all those kind of things are going to be all there. Alterations, coaching sessions, original art, like you name it, literally everything. I'm so happy about the launch, and I'll also start streaming again, promoting all this stuff, and yeah, I'm so pumped about it. So everyone, please just take a few minutes off and just go to solitaryx.com if you feel like it, and yeah.
Awesome, dude. So, what are the deck dividers actually made from? Because I thought you had a poll about that, right? Whether it should be like wood or plastic or anything.
Exactly. So, I think we had the talk before that like most deck dividers are pretty boring. They don't have any prints on them or anything like that. And I have not fully decided yet. I'm in the middle of a conversation with a print company, and what I want to do are like plastic, maybe glass, or like metal, maybe something like that. But we're gonna figure it out, and it will hopefully be on the homepage very soon.
And some of them, like if they pay extra, it should have like a piece of your hair or something. Like, I mean, we talk about like gamer girl bathwater and stuff.
Oh god, please stop, dude. Like
Yeah, before we started the podcast, I think we talked about like selling your farts.
like I only have like I actually don't have this much hair to donate, so
you can make it work. So yeah, where can people find it? Is it solitaryx.com?
yeah, it's actually literally my name.com. It's solitaryx.com.
solitaryx.com, so check that out. And with that, if you want to support the running of the show, as I mentioned earlier, you can do that on patreon.com/everydayeternal. You can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You can find us on @EternalMTG on Twitter and Instagram. Marcus, where can people find you on social media?
At Truckis123 on Twitter.
Truckers with like a CK,
And I'm
right?
also at the last finished match if you're in your local event. With a hand full of cards. That's where
The last guy still playing. Okay. You know what you should do? You should actually print a picture, a T-shirt that says "Last guy still playing," and then if you actually are the last guy, something like that. I would love it. Awesome. So Marcus, thank you so much for coming on the show. Callum, thanks for being a guest tonight.
My pleasure as always.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to all of our supporters for keeping the lights on here, especially our Eternal Witness tier supporters: Alex Crow, Tim Everett, Testacular, Sebastian Holaga, Guillaume, Sean Dewey, Francis Cooper, Cassandra Davis, Benedict Gruber, by the way, who's riding his bicycle across the Alps right now to go to Four Seasons Bologna. I think he has like 10 days to go. He was supposed to go with like 2 friends of ours, but they both got injured, and now he's scaling the Alps alone on his bike.
That is so cool.
That's really cool, right?
Yeah.
And Severin Schwarzhuber. And our Grizzlebrand tier supporters: Bachi Butt, Scott Monroe, Tom Happ, Andrew Whitman, Kane, Ian Seefeld, and Colonoscopy. Thank you so much. Enjoy your days of Jeskai Control potentially being playable, and see you again next time. Enjoy the summer.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.